Joining us now with reaction to the latest in the developing Uranium One scandal is the author of Clinton Cash, Peter Schweitzer. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. This is a fascinating story, Peter, and no one better to have on it than you. How does this new information fit into the larger Uranium One scandal?
Well, that's a great question, Kimberly. Yeah, it's very interesting. The Department of Justice is now asking for all the material the FBI has on Uranium One. It's important to point out, Kimberly, that this is an incomplete file. The Uranium One investigation was launched by the FBI in the summer of 2015. They asked in late 2016 for the Obama Department of Justice to grant them subpoena powers. That was turned down. That was reported on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So what they're getting is essentially what the FBI was able to do without these very powerful tools. I think it's a great sign that the DOJ has requested this information, but we have to keep in mind that it's not a complete file, and hopefully they're not going to, base a decision on an independent counsel based on just an incomplete file, because I think a lot more investigation needs to be done.
All right. So, and what do you think in particular, about a special counsel overall when they get more information in? What's the likelihood there?
I hope that there's going to be more information found. Look, I mean, there's some basic facts in the reporting. The NBC News story, which I think was quite good, got some fundamental facts wrong that keep being repeated by Democrats and by some media outlets. Number one, the statement that no uranium from Uranium One has been exported out of the United States. That's a falsehood. That's a lie. The New York Times in 2015 confirmed that yellow cake was being exported by Uranium One out of the country. John Solomon and The Hill reported the same thing, citing Nuclear Regulatory Commission documents. So this information needs to be sifted, and you need to have subpoena power to look at Clinton Foundation financial records, look at travel records, and to start piecing together exactly what happened. And I think once you get to that point, you can say we need an independent counsel, or we need to have some other means of investigating this.
Okay, and then why do you think that AG Sessions, decided to reopen the investigation now? I'm just curious as to the exact timing.
Well, I think that's a very good point. I think part of it is there's been a lot of activity on Capitol Hill about Uranium One, and the Department of Justice, which is supposed to be investigating corruption, is a little bit behind the 8 ball on this. You've got the Senate Judiciary Committee, you've got the House Oversight Committee, you've got the House Intelligence Committee, who are all investigating Uranium One, and the Department of Justice is behind. So I think part of this is they're feeling pressure from Capitol Hill.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about the testimony that's been behind closed doors, and we've been covering it closely. Hannity has on this show, but Andrew McCabe, Bruce Orr, they testified. What do you think's going on behind those closed doors, and in terms of the content, the nature and the focus, the breadth of that information?
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't we love to know what that testimony was all about? I mean, look, I think this is very concerning to people. People get that people in the FBI are human beings. They have opinions. They have attitudes. But clearly, the opinions in this case of a lot of people at DOJ seem to skew in one political direction. And when you're talking about something as sensitive as an investigation of a presidential candidate in 2016, people have to know and feel that there's going to be equal weighting. And there doesn't seem to have been equal weighting. So I think we're going to hear a lot from members of Congress in that committee going forward about what the testimony was, and I think we're not done. I think we're going to expect to see more documents and more information on what precisely the FBI was doing.
Now, how long? Let's talk to me about the duration of this, like in terms of, obviously trying to build a case perhaps and acquire documents, perhaps get some people, whistleblowers, to come forward with information to be able to further the investigation in the interest of justice.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, with Uranium One, you have to consider that this is a story that starts in 2005. We already have the video testimony of the Kazakh uranium minister, Mukhtar Zakhachev, saying that he was shaken down by Bill Clinton and then Senator Hillary Clinton to give this uranium to this Canadian company, which then sold it to the Russians. You have that. You have the flow of money, all this money going to the Clinton Foundation and to Bill Clinton's pocket with people connected to Uranium One. So you have this expansive time period, but really you're talking about a few actors, and I think from the standpoint of investigating that, if you have the right tools, which the FBI asked the DOJ for, it would not be that hard to figure out precisely what went on, and I think that's the next step.
It's so interesting because you look at that long time frame, and how about coordination and collusion there in terms of these people working together? And I mean, this is really fascinating to me, that why wasn't this looked at, you know, during the Obama administration or prior, and then nothing while Hillary Clinton is, you know, running for president of the United States, but yet they want to accuse President Trump of collusion in his transition team and do a gigantic document and wire grab of them without really any evidence to support it, and they've come up with nothing there.
Well, and you know, Kimberly, I said at the beginning of this process they should look into the Russia question, and I think they've really come up with no substantial evidence.
Right.
But consider this: that Trump dossier that you know had all these allegations that didn't bear out. One of the things that dossier said was the Russian sources said they had a dossier that had damning information on Hillary Clinton. One of the questions I would ask senior FBI officials is, well, did you ever pursue that?
Right.
I mean, you pursued this information related to Trump. Did you pursue it as it related to Hillary Clinton? And I think most people would say, if you're going to investigate one, you should investigate both. That seems to be the best standard, I think.
Well, that is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fair and impartial and do a thorough investigation, regardless of political persuasion or ideology, unless you have an invested interest in a determinative outcome. All right, thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it. And here with more reaction
Kimberly.
tonight are Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Good evening to you. So, Greg, get you to comment on some of this in terms of what the information that we just heard from Peter, and where the investigation stands and where you think it could go.
If top people at the FBI were capable of protecting and absolving Hillary Clinton in the email case, notwithstanding overwhelming evidence of crimes, aren't they also, Kimberly, capable of protecting her in the Uranium 1 case? It's a crime to use your office to confer a benefit to a foreign government in exchange for money. It's wire fraud, it's mail fraud, it's bribery. It could even be money laundering if you're using a foundation as a receptacle of that money. It's all kinds of anti-corruption crimes. And it, you know, it's not the first time that she's been suspected of this. She's also been accused of helping UBS avoid the IRS, and simultaneously her husband receives $1.5 million from UBS and a tenfold increase to their foundation. AP did a study, and they found that half of the non-governmental people who gained access to Hillary Clinton donated lavishly to her foundation. If she was peddling access, isn't she also capable of peddling influence?
And that is such a good question. I mean, when you learn about this, you know, Tom, and you just see the tentacles that really suggest, you know, corruption and collusion. And again, this is an ongoing investigation, so we have to see where it goes. But we do believe in our system of justice, and that an investigation should not, like I said, determine an outcome because they wanted to be on the side of the Clintons.
Well, the Justice Department and FBI were ruined under President Obama, Attorney General Lynch, and James Comey. There's no doubt about that. Compare and contrast what they how they handled the dossier last year with the Uranium 1 and the pay-to-play allegations with the Clinton Foundation. Reportedly, according to Fox News, Andrew McCabe talked about how the FBI worked so hard to verify that dossier and run it all down. Of course, they really couldn't verify it, but they worked hard on pursuing it. Now, what's going on with the Uranium 1 allegations? FBI agents at the line are seeking permission to get subpoenas out so they can pursue leads, and they're being told no. So you've got suppression of a Clinton investigation on yet another matter.
Unbelievable.
With this over-the-top attack, because this is what the dossier was. It was a Clinton attack, a Clinton campaign-funded attack on President Trump that the FBI took like a baton from the Clinton camp and ran with. It's really extraordinary. I hope these line agents that the Justice Department are talking to have whistleblower protection.
Exactly.
Because, you know, given the leadership there at the FBI now, frankly, they're going to have targets on their back, politically speaking, in terms of their careers, for speaking out. It's a serious situation. And the idea that you're going to let, you know, again, the bureaucracy figure out whether the bureaucracy should reopen this investigation, I'm not confident the right decisions are going to be made in the long run, but who knows?
Yeah, very interesting. And Greg, you know, talk to us a little bit also about the juxtaposition of, you know, these two investigations. It's just unbelievable. It's unprecedented.
Well, one is beginning to wonder, given the paucity of evidence of collusion with Trump and Russia, there seems to be a plethora of evidence of collusion between Hillary Clinton and her campaign and the DNC in Russia.
Certainly.
You know, it's a crime to pay a foreign national, including a Russian, money for information on a political opponent during a campaign. And if you're not honest about it in your financial filings under the Federal Campaign Finance Act, that is also a form of money laundering. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, all of this is very suspicious activity, but, you know, I agree with Tom that it's all going to come down, I think, in the end, to the dossier. That may be the biggest smoking gun of all, because it looks like the FBI and the Department of Justice were engaged in nefarious activities to fool a FISA judge, to falsely get a warrant, to spy on a political opponent, Donald Trump and his associates, and it was all being funded by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Did the FBI know that? I suspect so.
Well, that's such a pivotal question, isn't it? What did they know and when? If they took that and acted then in bad faith, like you said, to achieve some nefarious ends because they didn't want President Trump to become president of the United States, then candidate Trump, they were spying on his family. You had Don Jr. testifying, and of course leaks coming out from Schiff right away about that testimony, but no one seems to want to complain about that. I mean, it's unbelievable how unfair and imbalanced this is in terms of what went on, and just the absolute missile-lock focus to try to create the air and idea of collusion and corruption and coordination with the Russians, and not one scintilla, Tom, has come forward from that.
Oh, that's true. I mean, we've uncovered documents showing that Hillary Clinton, through Bill Clinton, received $500,000 from a Uranium One firm connected to the Russian government. Moscow. He went there to speak, got $500,000. It wasn't to the foundation, it went into their bank account. And then the Clinton campaign paid someone to go to Russia to talk to Russian intelligence to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. You know, by the standards that Mueller has presented in terms of the reasons to investigate someone, certainly there ought to be a special counsel looking at what Hillary Clinton was doing in terms of getting money with the Russians and then working with their intelligence services to figure out if there was dirt to be gotten on her political opponent.
Yeah, Greg.
You know, increasingly, almost day by day, the shape of a plot is beginning to emerge.
So true.
That people were determined for political reasons to absolve and exonerate Hillary Clinton, to clear a path for her to become president, and at the same time launching a fictitious investigation without evidence of Trump-Russian collusion in a political campaign, which, by the way, there's no statute that prohibits that sort of thing as long as money is not exchanged.
Correct.
So, you know, were they trying to frame Donald Trump while exonerating Hillary Clinton, and was all of this for political reasons and evidence be damned? It sure is beginning to look like that.
Yeah, and just, you know, an improper, you know, acquisition of FISA warrants, a misuse of the judicial process to be able to achieve a desired political end. I mean, this is what the height of corruption, all prosecutable. So this investigation, we're going to be talking about it for a while.
The FBI is unaccountable, really, in many, and has been for decades. And quickly, they can get away with doing things, and then when they're asked by Congress, they say, oh, we can't talk about it, it's classified, or it's a pending investigation, both of which are canards in these circumstances.
But we have to find out, you know, to be fair, you know, Tom, just real quick, we have to find out specifically who are the bad apples there, because, you know, for the majority, the rank and file of the FBI agents, men and women that serve, are outstanding. I don't like what I'm seeing there on the top levels at all, and I don't like the sort of the relationship between Mueller and Comey and McCabe, and I mean, it's just, there's a huge problem there, and hopefully they're getting to the bottom of it in this investigation. I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I agree. And we need to clean house of both agencies in terms of folks who were responsible for what went on during the prior administration and well into this administration. But we've got to get the information out. There's no excuse that we still don't know these key answers about who paid for the dossier, how was it used, what was in the FISA application, information about the FBI texts and other issues like that. We're still fighting about the tarmac meeting that went on between Clinton and Lynch.
Remember that?
What's the holdup?
Grandkids
the agency's got to be transparent and hold people accountable.
Yeah. All right, well, it's going to happen. We're just going to keep after it till it does. What a pleasure to have you both here tonight, Tom and Greg. Thank you, my colleague.
Thank you.
Coming up, Congressman Ron DeSantis is demanding answers over a new report about the Obama administration ignoring Hezbollah's criminal activity in order to secure the Iran nuclear deal. The congressman, he is here next. Plus, reaction from Herman Cain and Matt Schlapp. Stay with us.